Karrion Kross and Scarlett were on the After the Bell podcast with Corey Graves and Vic Joseph this week, talking about their big return to the WWE. What a fantastic return it was. What a good call it was by Triple H. One of the first, along with Bayley and a couple others, Dakota Kai, that kind of stuff, of Triple H really putting his mark on the company, his stamp into the talent roster, and really bringing a lot of those people that he was building NXT around, that he saw in NXT, bringing them back to his WWE, to build WWE in his image now that he's in control of the creative and everything. And Karrion Kross is a key player for that. Him and Scarlett especially. Not the Karrion Kross that Vince had where he fucking dressed him up in the helmet and shit. I'm talking about the Scarlett, the entrance, the fucking hourglass, all of that shit. This was absolutely made for main roster WWE, and I'm glad that he's back. And he's glad that he's back too, and she's glad that she's back too, and everybody's happy. Check out this clip.
Oh my God. It was awesome. It was just awesome. And just to see everybody again too was a really good feeling.
It was just the easiest decision too, because we had talked about, what if we get this opportunity? What if we do this? This is how we're going to do things. We're going to stick to it. We have to do things on our terms. So it's funny when Hunter called us, he was the best boss we ever had. So it was a complete no-brainer. It was just no other company has ever compared to it. So we trust him. We definitely trust him with our characters, with our storylines. So it's absolutely perfect. And I just think that any independent wrestler, if you want to make money and be happy, this is going to be the place you want to be. I have absolutely no doubts in my mind that WWE's it.
And it's interesting that Scarlett went into a little bit extra on saying that WWE is the place. If you're, I'm speaking to all these indie people. If you want to make money and be happy, you need to be at WWE. She's really kind of sucking Triple H's cock ski a little bit there, really putting him over. He's always there for us and whatever and blah, blah, blah. Hey, more power to them. They got a good relationship with Trips. Trips clearly sees the value in them and has high hopes for them on the main roster level as main roster talents. I agree with that 100%. And I agree with Triple H's vision in general. I always thought NXT was great. I do think, it's not going to be perfect. If NXT wasn't always amazing, but it was pretty top notch. It was an excellent wrestling show. It had very few holes in its game. So I think, even though WWE is a bigger corporate machine and they have to cater to a wider audience and they have to kind of change things and dumb things down a little bit, I think that the moves that Triple H is making are overall going to be a huge benefit for the company. That's something we talked about last week too, and that the internet's been talking about, is that AEW existed as a good alternative to WWE because Vince was a goddamn tyrant and an asshole, he was so difficult to work for, and he got a hair up his ass about so many little things that he just wouldn't see it in some of these amazing talents, or they just couldn't work with him. They couldn't fit into that WWE structure, and they were ultimately, unhappy and left the company, and that's where they found solace in AEW. Now that Triple H and Stephanie and Nick Khan are in charge, that's not going to be the case. And that's something that AEW is going to have to compete with. And I think Scarlett, she almost made it sound like maybe she got an offer from AEW. We know also from last week's episode where Freddie Prinze Jr. was talking about his promotion that he was going to start, and that he had Karrion Kross, Killer Kross, and Scarlett as his top act. He was going to be their champion. So maybe she was just talking about that, but when she's talking about we've had offers from other companies and some of them seemed great, were big money offers, we didn't feel like it was, would have been good for the short term, but not the long term. And then she says, if you're an indie worker, you want to make money and be successful, you have to go to WWE. I wonder if those are shots at AEW and why they would be shots at AEW, but I could just be reading into that. As a, AEW fanboy, of course, are you talking shit about my company? But she was talking shit about something, She was clearly trying to put her stamp on WWE's the place to be, and I'm happy to be, and they both said as much, everything they did in wrestling was to work towards being in the WWE. And, they got such a shitty raw deal when Vince was in charge, just breaking them up to begin with and not even having Scarlett on TV. Jesus Christ, what are you thinking? Look at the girl. God damn. But she matches so well with Karrion. Like, why would you even take that? Like, they're the sexiest couple in the history of wrestling. They're great eye candy, both for men and women. They're amazing chemistry together. She's a good piece to his. They're so good together. Like, why would you split that up? Like, they got such a raw deal their first go around here that and really, as soon as Triple H took over, he knew. It seems like this was one of the first moves that he made. He couldn't bring him back before SummerSlam, but he already had. I'm sure as soon as he took control of the wheel, I'm sure one of the first phone calls he made was to Karrion. Why not? He saw huge things with him in NXT. He got a raw shake on the main roster. Now I think he's going to get a fair deal. And you know what? There's people that criticize Kross and think that he's, more hype than he is actual substance. We'll see. Now it's sink or swim for them. But I think, they're made for WWE act. Especially, and I think they're just, I see just main event WrestleManias for years to come. Hey, thanks for checking out that clip. Don't forget to check out other clips here on the channel, and while you're there, throw a like, throw a subscribe, and don't forget to check out full episodes each and every Sunday of the Pro Wrestling Podcast.